Welcome back to another episode of Projecting Grandeur. I am your host, Ron Dichter. You guys are in for a treat today. We have a very special guest who is somebody that probably needs no introduction to many of you out there, but Vijay Rajendran is the founder, or he's a founder, he's an investor, he's a coach, he's built companies, he's scaled not just businesses, but systems. He's coached leaders. He's really just a phenomenal person. He wrote a book called The Funding Framework that we're going to talk a little bit about here, and just a gentleman that I'm really excited to bring to the show. So Vijay, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you, Ron, and appreciate the very generous introduction.
Well, I think our audience is really going to like what you have to say. So let's just jump right into it. You've had quite the journey, from founder to investor to startup coach. Was there a moment when you realized, your real impact was in helping others grow, kind of becoming the leaders that you think that they can become?
Absolutely. Rewind a few years ago, I was leading portfolio value for one of the largest venture capital portfolios in the world at 500 global, also known as 500 startups. And when I was there, I spent a good chunk of my time, but a fraction of my time still on helping our portfolio founders through some difficult challenges. And that could look like figuring out how to tell their story. It could, for fundraising, it could look like working out a co-founder disagreement. It might be trying to navigate the complicated inner workings and politics of a customer, or asking, how do we bring on this exceptional person when we're, like two people and a dog, and when I connected with people, I realized something is that the biggest thing holding back great businesses of tomorrow isn't always technology. It often isn't capital, which is kind of counterintuitive for someone who book up fundraising. It's actually leadership. Like, if we want change in our world, if we want not just great products and services, but organizations that we're proud to work at, or institutions that make our lives better, we need great leadership, because that maximizes the impact of everything else. And so that was a light bulb moment for me, and why I've been on this journey, coaching and focusing on what great leadership needs to look like, and how someone can have extraordinary impact, even if they're just a very early stage entrepreneur.
Yeah, I love that. You put that very well, and understandable. So let's go to something that's less understandable. I get a lot of questions about the name Projecting Grandeur of this whole podcast. And grandeur is not a word we usually associate with startups, but I think, and I believe you're going to agree with me, that we should. And so as you think about projecting grandeur, what does that mean in the context of leadership?
Yeah. The difference between a startup and any other kind of business is that you have this expectation that you're going to grow unreasonably fast, right? You believe that this business is going to double every year, or even triple, right? Every year. So you're going to go from 1 to 1,000 to 10,000 to 100,000 like customers, these exponential like levels of growth that are not what most independent small businesses would experience. So given the degree and scale of the ambition, and how the individual leading it needs to go from one day just building something in their garage, as the stereotype is, to the next day leading managers of managers of managers, big global teams, offices in different places, having responsibilities to investors as well as their community. Like, that's a big shift, and if that's not what growth looks like, I don't know what is. And so that's, I think, the connection to grandeur is to like see that what growth is possible for yourself and for those who are on the journey with you.
I love the word unreasonably fast, how you use that. Because, I think that a lot of the founders, to your point about grandeur, they don't think of it as unreasonable. It's just the rest of the world looks at it as unreasonable. So it's funny how you put that. I like it. Uh, so, Startup System is all about helping founders become CEOs.
Mhm.
What does that transformation look like? In real terms, what does that look like? And why are there so many founders that they get stuck in this middle area?
Yeah. Um, and that's a great observation. Is there's this very natural early plateau that can happen at a few places, and that plateau might be around $1 or $2 million in sales. It might be around $10 to $20 million in sales. There are these places where you don't jump to the next level, but it's not just in terms of like moving numbers on a spreadsheet. It actually starts with how you show up and are winning today and preparing yourself for tomorrow. And what I mean by that is on day one, you are the chief everything officer. That's actually what CEO like stands for when it's like you and a co-founder and an early team building something. So you are pitching to investors and building, the product, and maybe also winning customers, and you're doing all these things, but you're also taking out the trash, and you're also up at 2 in the morning trying to do accounting, right? Like these are the realities. And the mistake some people make is, well, these things I'm not good at, or maybe as our company grows and there's more to do, I will just delegate it out. When in fact there is a path of asking, how do we want um, how do we want our organization to reflect our strategy? How should we focus on our strengths? And what is my inner genius as a founder that allows me to be most effective? And so I'm not just, seeing the people who go from founder to CEO think about, okay, what am I good at and how do I delegate the rest? They have a very specific intention that they communicate to others, and they have a communication architecture that reflects the culture of the company they want to have, and also allows them to win in terms of the strategy and things that they should do with their team and their structure, their products, etc.
Yeah, you've given me two good nuggets already. Chief Everything Officer. I like that as well. So, two things to borrow. So, in your book, The Funding Framework, you lay out some really smart ways to approach fundraising. Beyond just securing capital, how do you think getting intentional about fundraising changes and how a founder shows up as a leader, really?
Yeah. So when you are on this journey from chief everything officer, chief executive officer, you're upgrading yourself all the time in terms of skills you didn't have. And it's very accepted in our society that no one is born good at sales or hiring or whatever. You just have to do it, and you have to learn from experience. You can sometimes learn from training and from being in different teams from others, but you've got to acquire this skill. And fundraising is another acquired skill. A lot of people associate it with certain networks or the serendipity of meeting the right person at the right time, but when in fact it is a product of systems rather than serendipity or chance. And so I try and first encourage people to think in that way. And then the second thing that is sometimes counterintuitive is, uh, you know, it's not about pitching. It's not about me showing up and saying, Ron, now be quiet and listen to me for 10 minutes while I tell you why my business is so great and I'm so wonderful. It has a lot to do with listening. The same is true in a lot of other like things that I alluded to as well, like sales and hiring. Right? There's a lot that comes from like really being dialed in and listening to the other person, and that relationship is often what creates very successful fundraising outcomes. And so the third part I will say is that we are a culture that looks at these headline grabbing outcomes like this company raised $1 billion or $1 million or whatever, like that like happened, or even some fund like closed this next large fund. So we therefore treat fundraising as the goal. And fundraising is just an input to your business, just like anything else, right? So it's what you do with that capital to serve your customers, create a great place to work, find a way to live a life that's consistent with your purpose. That really matters. So treating so not just looking at the fundraising as a goal, but as an input into your business is really important. And as I said, there's a system to getting there.
Yeah, it's so true. One of the toughest transitions, and I have to admit, I'm guilty of this in my early career, is letting go of being a doer and stepping into the role of being a leader. As people make this transition, what advice would you give to someone who's feeling that friction and that shift, and they don't know how to let go, but they need to grow forward?
So many of us don't really learn what it means to delegate well, and the different types of delegation, and that there is a continuum between how you might direct people to how you might completely defer to them. And the tension is right now between what some people describe as intensive micromanaging, and other people like think of as being completely hands off and giving people lots of rope and so forth. So it turns out that for the particular task and for the particular person, you need to manage them differently. So usually where I see founders struggle with this is because of one of two things. One, they don't have confidence in the person ultimately that's going to be done right. So it's a trust issue. And then secondly, there's a belief, well, this will just be faster if I do it, or I'll just be, more comfortable if I do it myself. So I think calling it out and recognizing, I want this to be done a certain way. Therefore, I'm not going to just throw it to Ron and say, go take care of this. I might be very intentional. So the question is, am I deciding exactly what you will do, or am I directing you to do it, or am I saying, look, I need you to start on this thing. I'm going to own the decision of what we do, but come back to me with the options, and then we'll figure out how to go from there. The fourth model is actually a form of delegation, which is I'm going to hand this to you. You're going to look at the options. You're going to make the decision, but just, inform me, which is what most of us think is like delegation, that we've handed something off to someone else. And then the fourth type is, I don't want to, this is a thing, you take care of it, you own the decision, you figure out what to do. I'm not going to provide you with direction either. And just take care of it. Don't tell me about whether it's done or not. Right. So what does that involve? It involves being explicit up front about how you want something done, or if you don't want to know how it gets done, only who owns the decision, and then what is the follow-up at the end? Because usually where the trust is lost is because you wanted to make the decision, but you left it to be ambiguous whether you want that individual to make the decision or you're going to make it for them, or there was no feedback loop, and maybe you wanted a feedback loop, or maybe you didn't need to know like that so and so took care of something, and so forth. So that's where I think we owe it to the people we work with to be very clear about whether the thing we are handing off is a matter of like, it's a direction, whether we own the decision, or whether we're asking them to take care of it and follow up or not.
Yeah, there's a lot. It's not one path. It sounds like there's a lot of different.
There's at least four paths.
Yeah, that makes it challenging, but it's eyes wide open going through those changes. So you've worked with all sorts of different startups globally, Silicon Valley, Europe, Asia, everywhere. Are there leadership qualities, regardless of where you are, that really just seem to work?
Yeah. Um, the the thing that works across cultures is people need to um, act their way into a new way of thinking rather than think their way into a new way of acting. And what I mean by that is we usually are moving so fast, and we don't understand why people don't believe what we already believe as leaders. So we just say like, we're doing this now, or we need to like shift our mindset to build with AI, or to be customer centric, or we're going to, um, you know, set, um, be more transparent as an organization, or like we set these ideas, and we think because we've written in an email or mentioned it on the all hands call that now it's going to be a thing. When in fact, people need to act a certain way in order to then see themselves as a person who does that thing, in which case the mindset shift just like happens with far less friction and much more speed. So I think that is like a basic like psychological thing across all humans. The second thing I will say that good leaders do is not just like um, you know get people into motion, is they tell great stories. And this is like something that if you look at uh, Noah Yuval Harari's book, like *Sapiens*, is like the cornerstone of what makes us human. Is we from the earliest days have sat around a campfire someplace and shared stories, and that is really important for people to believe in what they're doing, in what for customers to believe what your company is doing, and for the investors in the outside world to get it, because that's what we remember. And the the story doesn't have to be like, let me tell you about when I had to walk uphill both ways in the snow to like build this company. It can be the way we connect to really sticky ideas, like a great example is Steve Jobs saying, I'm not going to tell you what this device is. It's 1,000 songs in your pocket, right? This thing, the iPod that I've just pulled out, and that's just such a powerful idea. And then there's a story behind that. So stories can be a few words, or they can be a powerful hero's journey. But that's something that great leaders do.
Yeah, that's so true. Uh, well, let's talk about burnout, because trying to project anything, I mean, let alone grandeur, it's hard, right? And especially when you're running on fumes. You talk about doing accounting at 2 a.m. Like sleep is not startup. Sleep and startup don't go hand in hand. How do you guide founders just to get through this, like to see the light at the end of the tunnel?
There's been a lot of great work on energy management, and I'm thinking of like Tony Schwartz and the Energy Project, and um, the sleep thing is very real. So we burn the candle at both ends. Sleep, diet, exercise are things that you control. It may not feel like you have control, but they're actually like choices you actively make. We all like to say, reflexively, I don't have time for this. When in fact, I, Leonardo da Vinci, Marie Curie, Nelson Mandela, like every like famous, successful person that you can think of has had 24 hours in a day. So how do we manage our energy to do extraordinary things in those 24 hours? In a way that matters, and is not just more, is really the question. And that's really, really hard, and it's a constant struggle. So the things that are that you can make some choices around, and you're not going to get it perfect, have to do with, do I need to be doing deep work, and how do I need to structure my day to achieve a highlight. There's a wonderful book called Make Time by friends John Zaransky and Jake Knapp on this a bit that allows you to like think about doing great like creative and productive things in the time you've got. And so yeah, maybe you dial into your circadian rhythm and plan your day and the things you do around when you have certain energy. So um, for a lot of us, that dips in the middle of the afternoon. That can be a great time to um, go for a walk, catch up with some parenting responsibilities, do maybe meal prep for the afternoon, like do for the evening, or whatever it looks like, right? Because there's real life in the way of building a business. Like maybe you toggle in ways that find things that give you energy or allow you to use those hours of the day when you're at your peak performance for the things that really matter. I did not like have a silver bullet that to recommend. Like if you journal or if you meditate, Ron, everything's going to be great. Like it turns out, I work with super productive founders uh, who who do meditate, and others who cannot sit quietly in a room by themselves. The thing that works for you is out there. You've just got to like try different things, and in a way that allows you to really be effective because you're attuned to like what your energy is like and what it can be.
Yeah. Yeah. I can't sit in a room quietly, just so you know. Ah, so, how do you help leaders stay grounded? Like, let's say things go well and the business starts to scale and grow. How do you keep those leaders grounded when that happens?
Yeah, being close to the ground is important because you in any role as you move up in an organization or that your life becomes more and more complicated because of the scale of the business you're building as an entrepreneur. You're going to experience a lack of contact with customers, with what people in your organization like think and feel, and what let's say conditions are like every day in the economy sometimes if you get to a certain level. So staying grounded means a few things. It is understanding what are your values and revisiting those values, writing them down, thinking about them, and asking, what am I doing that's consistent with my values right now? And is there anything that I need to eliminate from my life that is inconsistent? So I think that values is the bedrock. Um, and on top of those values, it's asking, what do I want to start, stop, and continue that allows me to create more abundance that's consistent with my values. Now, I've worked with founders who tell me they want to build $1 trillion company, and I've worked with founders who are looking to build something that allows them to create a life of abundance for them and their family, but means they're spending time on what matters to them at a relationship level. It's not a financial outcome. Neither, one of those is not better than the other. The question is like, what are your personal values, and are you living a life that is consistent with them? Because we're just all wired really really differently.
Yeah, we really are. Uh, you've already touched on this, but I think it's important. And I think, given your background, it's important to kind of double click back into this before I don't have you in front of me. So, founders often face, the role of fundraising, and you talked about that. How do you feel the concept of projecting grandeur applies to the founders, as they're trying to raise money, and where's that balance? Because you touched on this, and I think it's a really important part.
Thanks for highlighting that. So there are four parts to the founding framework. The first is storytelling. The second is organization. The third is outreach. And the fourth is closing with confidence. The, the, the thing that many people do when they go into the fundraising exercise is they perceive and they internalize a power imbalance. So if you show up and you're asking this person to please like do you a favor and be nice and like give you some money, and you look like desperate and needy, you don't you don't in the eyes of that capital allocator, that investor, like show up as someone who should get that capital, as opposed to someone who isn't just confident, but they have a belief that this is a partnership and we are equals. And I'm giving you the opportunity to join me on this journey because the train is leaving the station and I am going to create this future one way or another. We're going to get there, right? And that belief in oneself is a huge part of people who achieve like extraordinary outcomes in their lives. But it's very important to fundraising, not to self-delude, but to recognize that that's really what this is. This is this at this moment in time is who you are, and there's some future self that you believe you're going to grow into, and that you believe your company is going to scale towards, and that is an extraordinary outcome because it's yours and you own it and you believe in it. And from a place of authenticity, that brings investors along because from a storytelling perspective, you're telling them powerful. It's something powerful. From an organization perspective, you've done the preparation, you're buttoned up. From an outreach perspective, you found the investors with whom there is great thesis fit. Like you are what they've been waiting for. And then from a fundraising closing standpoint, you aggressively project manage this so that the wires arrive and the cash is in the bank, and at that point the deal is done.
Yeah, that's very well said, and such an important thing. And I hope our viewers really appreciate your expertise in this area as well. So let's be a little. I don't want this to come off as morbid, but when we're all said and done, and the dust settles, what do you hope that your work leaves behind, and what legacy do you hope that you're building with the founders that you coach?
I'm hoping that these are leaders who are able to lead with intention, that hopefully not always, but sometimes can create a lot of wealth for society and for themselves, and that these are people who are thriving. In other words, they are juggling with joy with all the complexity and that grows with the business and the things they scale, and that they achieve freedom because it's that it's that thing that at the end of the day is what their work should create for them more than anything else.
Hmm. Listen, Vijay, I think you've got some great gems that you've dropped on us here today. As I think about kind of my through line that I take away, it's growth's not just about building companies; it's about becoming the person who can lead them as well. And I think you've articulated that really well. For our viewers out there, how can they get a hold of you? How can they contact you if they're interested in talking to you?
Yeah, if people want to know more, I have a Substack. Startup System is the Substack blog. You can also find me on LinkedIn. And then also mystartupsystem.com is where I keep some resources, worksheets, and things like that, checklists that go with the funding framework.
Yeah, well, I'll put all of Vijay's contact information when we release the episode here. And I just want to thank Vijay for dropping in. Just a really exciting time to be a founder, and you need good people that can help steer the way. So, Vijay, thanks for joining, and wishing you all the best.
Thank you, Ron. This has been a pleasure.
All right, and to everybody else, let's keep projecting that grandeur. Let's keep doing amazing things. Again, Vijay and I were talking before this started, and we think entrepreneurs truly are the lifeblood of growth, and we appreciate all you do. So take care and have a good day.